Today I'm going to reset the NHL back to 1993. That's right, we are going back in time to simulate the 90s and see how differently the league would be. We now have guys like Gretzky, Lemieux, Jagr, Fedorov, Messier, all in their prime and ready to dominate the league. Let's simulate and see what happens. If you're new here, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn notifications on so you don't miss a single upload. Anaheim, I'm pretty sure they're new to the league. The NHL just expanded this year, or something close to that, so they don't have very good players, to be honest. Boston has the likes of Adam Oates and Ray Bourque. Buffalo has Dale Hawerchuk and Alexander McGillney. How's this guy not in the Hall of Fame? Carolina, who should be the Hartford Whalers, have Chris Pronger. Calgary has Gary Roberts. They have William Nylander's dad, Michael Nylander, and they have Al McGinnis on D, pause, and Mike Vernon in net. Chicago has Ed Belfour in net, and they have an absolutely stacked first line. Mike Modano on the Dallas Stars. The Red Wings' first line is also very stacked. They have Sergei Fedorov and Steve Yzerman. Stevie Y, baby.
The eyes are playing.
And they have Nicholas Lidstrom and Paul Coffey on D. Paul Coffey played for Detroit? So they are definitely the favorites going into year number 1. Edmonton is an absolute shambles. They don't have Gretzky, Messier, anybody good. Yep, they are heading into the dark years now. Florida is, well, Florida. Montreal has a decent roster, but the difference is they have Patrick Roy in net. He will definitely steal some games for them. New Jersey has Martin Brodeur, no surprise there, and their defensive-minded system will probably continue. Scott Niedermayer and Scott Stevens on D, they are for sure going to lock some teams down. The Islanders have Ray Ferraro, the ESPN broadcaster, used to be TSN, but he switched up. And the Islanders have Ron Hextall in goal. The Rangers have a really good team. They have Mark Messier and Adam Graves on their first line. They also have Alexei Kovalev. That dude had a lot of swagger back in the day, I swear to God. He'd be toe dragging at the blue line, not a care in the world. 3-minute shifts. He had that dog in him. They also have Brian Leach on D. Yeah, their D core is very good too. The Ottawa Senators have Alexei Yashin, and not much else, to be honest. Philly has Mark Recchi and Eric Lindros. They also have Rob Brind'Amour. The Penguins need no introduction. They have Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Ron Francis. Now Quebec has Joe Sakic and Matt Sundin. San Jose is, well, San Jose. St. Louis has Brendan Shanahan, Peter Stastny, and Brett Hall on their first line. And in goal, they have the Toronto legend Curtis Joseph. Tampa has Dennis Savard. Toronto has Dougie Gilmour and Mike Gartner. Wendell Clark is still here. And they have Felix Potvin in net. Vancouver has Pavel Bure. Winnipeg has the father of the two Menace brothers, Brady and Matthew. And we cannot forget Teemu Selanne, the absolute legend. They also have Ty Domi. I don't know if he played for Winnipeg, but Ty Domi. Washington has Peter Bondra, and not much else, to be honest. They have some decent players, though. And last but not least, the LA Kings have Luc Robitaille, Wayne Gretzky, and Jari Kurri. Their bottom 6 is not very good, but they're very top-heavy. They have Rob Blake at a 91 overall, which is not bad at all. And their goaltending is below average, to be honest. I mean, having Wayne Gretzky on the team speaks alone. I'm pretty sure you're going to be contending for a cup every single year. At the end of year number 1, the LA Kings would finish first in their division, followed by the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames. I swear to God, it took me like 30 minutes to sort out all these divisions. They were drastically different back in 1993. Detroit finished first in their division, followed by St. Louis and Toronto. Pittsburgh finishes first in their division, followed by Montreal and Buffalo. And finally, New Jersey finishes first in their division, followed by New York and New York. At the bottom of the league, we have the Anaheim Ducks, the San Jose Sharks, and of course, the Edmonton Oilers. I told you this simulation would not be nice to them. Wayne Gretzky would have the most goals and points by any player. What an absolute shocker. Followed by Luc Robitaille and Jari Kurri, his 2 line mates, and then Brett Hall and Steve Yzerman. Stevie Y and Brett Hall had a good year, but I mean, the LA Kings first line is insane. Gretzky would have 87 goals, followed by Brett Hall and Luc Robitaille with 58 apiece. Ray Bourque would have the most goals and points by a defenseman with 97, followed by Phil Housley and Paul Coffey. Kelly Hrudey would have the most wins by any goaltender with 47. Kelly Hrudey would have the most wins by any goaltender with 47. This is what the 93-94 playoff matchups look like. Our Stanley Cup final matchup is set. We have the LA Kings versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, meaning that we have Mario Lemieux versus Wayne Gretzky, and the LA Kings have done it. In year number 1, Wayne Gretzky is going to capture the Stanley Cup. Wayne Gretzky is obviously your Conn Smythe winner. I mean, who else would it be?
The Wayne train is coming through, baby.
And here comes the great one, Wayne Gretzky, coming to lift the Stanley Cup with the LA Kings. something he did not do in real life, and the LA Kings are your year 1 Stanley Cup champions. Wayne Gretzky would obviously have the most goals and points in the entire playoffs. He would have 20 goals and 48 points. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. He would take home the Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, the Art Ross, the Hart Trophy, and the Conn Smythe Trophy all in the same season. Paul Coffey would win the Norris. Mike Vernon would take home the Vezina. At the end of year number 2, the LA Kings would finish first in their division with 62 wins. They won 62 games, followed by the Calgary Flames and the San Jose Sharks. The Red Wings would be first in their division, followed by the Maple Leafs and the Blues. Quebec would actually finish first in their division, followed by the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens. New York would be at the top of their division, followed by New Jersey and Tampa Bay. The Anaheim Ducks would finish dead last in the entire NHL, followed by the Philadelphia Flyers and the Ottawa Senators. Wayne Gretzky would have the most points in the entire NHL with 151. Mario Lemieux would actually have the most goals with 73, followed by Wayne Gretzky and Luc Robitaille. Damn, okay, Mario, I see you, buddy. Ray Bourque would yet again have the most goals and points by any defenseman with 97. Paul Coffey would be a close second with 91. Kelly Hrudey would yet again have the most wins by any goaltender and would be an NHL record 49. Mike Vernon would have the most shutouts by any goaltender with 6. Here are what the year 2 playoff matchups look like. The 1994-1995 Stanley Cup playoffs, and the New Jersey Devils will end up winning the Stanley Cup as they beat Toronto in 5 games in the Stanley Cup final. Wait, Toronto made the finals? What the hell? John Cullen would actually have the most points out of any player in the playoffs with 31, followed by Mike Gartner and Dave Gagne. Wayne Gretzky is still Wayne Gretzky. Takes home the Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Lemieux would win the Rocket. Paul Coffey wins the Norris yet again. Scott Niedermayer would take home the Conn Smythe. Kevin Hrudey would win the Vezina. Calgary would finish first in their division, followed by the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. The Red Wings would finish first in their division, followed by St. Louis and Chicago. Pittsburgh would finish first in their division, followed by Quebec and Montreal. And the Devils would finish first in their division, followed by the Rangers and the Panthers. And here's what the bottom looks like. We have Winnipeg, Ottawa, and Boston, the bottom 3 teams in the entire NHL. Wayne Gretzky would have the most points in the entire NHL with 116, tied with the Jaromir Jagr. Then followed by Mario Lemieux, Luc Robitaille, and Brett Hall. Mario Lemieux would have the most goals by any player in the NHL with 67, followed by Wayne Gretzky and Brett Hall. We would have 3 60-goal scorers. Paul Coffey would have the most points by any defenseman with 94. Brian Leetch would have the most goals by any defenseman with 23. Martin Brodeur would have the most shutouts with 5, followed by Ed Belford. And here's what our year 3 playoff matchups look like. The 1995-1996 NHL playoffs. Our Stanley Cup final is set. We have New Jersey versus LA. LA is back in the Stanley Cup final for a second time in 3 years, and New Jersey won it last year, so this is their second time being here also. Here's proof to the people in the comments who say I rigged the games. LA is winning 3-2 with 3 minutes left in Game 6, and they have a 3-2 series lead. I promise you I'm not going into these games and changing the outcomes. I honestly do not care who wins. And the LA Kings have yet again won the Stanley Cup. Gretzky captures his 6th Stanley Cup, his second with the LA Kings. Your Conn Smythe winner yet again is Wayne Gretzky. Another Conn Smythe to his resume, and the GO case is sealed, man, if it wasn't already. And here comes the great one, Wayne Gretzky, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the second time with the LA Kings. 2 Stanley Cups in 3 years, and my hat is off to you, Wayne. Greatest player of all time. Wayne Gretzky would have the most points in the entire playoffs with 36, followed by Luc Robitaille and Jari Kurri, who are his line mates. Gretzky will win his 3rd straight Selke. Absolutely insane. Mario would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, and the Hart Trophy. Paul Coffey, 3 straight Norrises. The Conn Smythe obviously went to Wayne Gretzky. At the end of year 4, the LA Kings finished first in their division, followed by the Edmonton Oilers and the San Jose Sharks. The Red Wings would finish first in their division, followed by Chicago and Toronto. The Red Wings had 60 wins. The Pittsburgh Penguins would finish first in their division, followed by Montreal and Quebec. Again, we're going to get Montreal and Quebec in the playoffs. The Rangers would finish first in their division, followed by Florida and Tampa. Winnipeg would be dead last in the entire NHL, followed by Philadelphia and Dallas. 3 god-awful franchises. Sorry. Wayne Gretzky would have the most points in the entire NHL with 137, followed by Kevin Stevens, Jaromir Jagr, and Mario Lemieux. Mario would have the most goals yet again, this time with 61, followed by Wayne Gretzky and Brett Hall. 58, 50, 60, 50. Yeah, man, Brett Hall is legit. Eric Desjardins would have the most points out of any defenseman with 86. Actually, he would be tied with Paul Coffey. He would have the most goals by any defenseman though with 21, followed by Paul Coffey and Phil Housley. Rob Stubar, I definitely just butchered that name, would have the most wins by any goaltender with 43, followed by Patrick Waugh and Felix Potvin. And here's what the year 4 playoff matchups look like. The 1996-1997 Stanley Cup playoffs. The Chicago Blackhawks somehow beat the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup final. They would somehow sweep the Rangers. Wayne Gretzky wins 4 straight Selkies. Mario would yet again take home the Maurice Richard. Paul Coffey is the best defenseman of all time. The Conn Smythe would go to Goulet. I think I'm pronouncing that name right, but honestly I don't really know. The Vezina would go to Sean Burke. At the end of year 5, the LA Kings finished first in their division, followed by the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim sneaking in, man. The Red Wings yet again finished first in their division, followed by Chicago and St. Louis. Carolina would actually finish first in their division. The Hartford Whalers, my bad. Followed by the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens. The Rangers yet again finished first in their division, followed by Florida and New Jersey. And the New York Islanders would finish dead last in the entire NHL, followed by Toronto and Tampa. Wayne Gretzky would have the most goals and points in the entire NHL. Brett Hall would actually tie him for goals with 66. Desjardins would have the most points out of any defenseman with 92. Ray Bourque would have the most goals though at 20. Sean Burke would have the most wins by any goaltender with 39. Belfour would have the most shutouts with 4. And here's what the year 5 playoff matchups look like. The 1997-1998 Stanley Cup playoffs. Carolina would take home the Stanley Cup as they beat Edmonton in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. Shout out Edmonton, man. Making the Stanley Cup final without Gretzky, Messier, Coffey, all these great players they don't have, and in 5 years they build a Stanley Cup contending team. Gretzky would not take home his 5th straight Selke, but he would take home pretty much every other award. The Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, the Art Ross, and the Hart. Finally, Paul Coffey was defeated. The Norris would go to Desjardins, Verbeek would take home the Conn Smythe, and the Vezina would go to Sean Burke. That's gonna do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Make sure you turn notifications on so you don't miss a single upload. And remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy. Bye.